Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. We welcome you to a new series and with our first episode of Muslims and the Land of Opportunity. Inshallah ta'ala, during this series, we'll be discussing a lot of the issues that a lot of you have been wondering about. We will be discussing how to live and how to succeed, inshallah, in this world and the hereafter. We'll be discussing the dream of every human being, the dream of success. Billions and billions have been dreaming of comfort and success and happiness in this life, but we will also mention to you how to succeed and how to make it, inshallah, and to prosper in this life and the hereafter. Of course, when we talk about the land of opportunities here, of course, it's meant, or we're trying to focus on the United States of America. It has been the dream of many human beings on this earth to come and migrate to the States. A lot of Muslims have come to the States, and a lot of them have succeeded. Alhamdulillah, they were able to accomplish the happiness of this life, and inshallah, the happiness of the hereafter. We'll be sharing with you their experiences. We'll be speaking about a lot of the social issues. We'll be speaking about a lot of that religious, political issues, and inshallah ta'ala, we'll be saying how to live as a Muslim, at the same time, how to balance between your duties as a Muslim and your responsibility as a good citizen. And inshallah, we'll be discussing with you so many exciting issues that you have always wondered about. We'll bring you even interviews from people in that country, Muslims who are, mashallah, proud to be Muslim, who have, alhamdulillah, accomplished a lot of things that a lot of us have been wondering about and a lot of us have been dreaming to accomplish for a long, long time. Inshallah, we'll be mentioning to you a lot of successful stories, a lot of the issues here that will be discussed, inshallah, during this series. It will be very, very, very beautiful to hear and very beautiful to, inshallah ta'ala, share with our beautiful guests here at the studio. So stick around because this is going to be a very, very different, inshallah, program. And inshallah ta'ala, I promise you, it will be very exciting and it will appeal to everybody. If you are here to learn deen, you're going to be learning a lot of the deen. If you're here to learn about the States, you'll be very, very excited because, inshallah, we'll go to like places like the downtown of LA. Inshallah, we'll go and inshallah take even clips from Hollywood. We'll be going to the big landmarks that you only see in TV, inshallah, here. We'll be bringing here to the studio and we'll be sharing with you. And inshallah ta'ala, you will see for yourself, you know, how to succeed in this life and hereafter. So I'll start the discussion, inshallah, and welcome our guests here. We have Muhammad with us, we have Abdullah, and we have Shadian and Akram. How are you guys? How's everything going? Good, alhamdulillah. Okay, great. So you know, prior to the program, we were starting to discuss and some of the issues that you guys have been wondering about. From how is it to live there as a Muslim youth? How is it to live there as a Muslim in general? Can I raise a family? How can I practice my deen? How can I pray? And a lot of these issues we've been wondering about for a long time, right? And especially some of you who have never been to the States before, you can always wonder, subhanallah, I've seen this country only on TV, I've seen it maybe or some clips on YouTube or something, but it's like a lot of Muslims who especially never been there, they always, when they think of the US, they always think of the dreamland, and we're here really to bring, to do a reality check, to really expose the facts, as they say. We'll be here, inshallah, to also tell you how to balance between being successful in this life and the hereafter, between your Muslim identity as a Muslim, and also between your success. And inshallah ta'ala, all of these issues will be discussed. And as I said, it will be very exciting series because it will be different from any other series. It will be a combination of so many things. And even a non-Muslim can watch it and enjoy it, inshallah ta'ala. And we'll start, I guess, with Muhammad. I think you had a question.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about how is it to live in America, I mean the US, as a Muslim teenager?
Okay, great. Well, here's the thing that, subhanAllah, when we speak of Muslim youth or teenager, there's a lot of, a lot of the issues here which are almost, the U.S. has discussed amongst itself, like on the government level, on the social level, of how can we protect our youth? How can we protect our youth? Because, subhanAllah, we see that the American society has been drifting aimlessly towards an ocean of problems. Like violence, immorality, drugs, gang problems, smoking, drinking, and so many of these issues like that has almost like destroyed a big portion of society from within, and a lot of the a lot of the officials have been really trying very hard to change things. At the same time, there's a lot of organizations over there working on these social issues, and alhamdulillah, they've had a lot of success. But at the same time, we need to present to them the Islamic solution. When I talk about Muslim youth, I have to remember that being a Muslim over there, if you are a Muslim youth, going to an Islamic school is definitely much easier, because we have something called peer pressure. Peer pressure is something that a lot of us are subject to, even if you are in a Muslim land. Studying at a high school, a lot of the the students, when they go to school and they are subject to of course interaction with their friends, with their buddies and their classmates. Even if you are trying to go a certain way, still you find, unfortunately, like teenagers at that time, they're like, or that stage in their lives, they're like, a lot of them are very immature, subhanAllah, and sometimes it can be very challenging. But here's the good news is that, alhamdulillah, as a teenager, it's really up to you. You could do it if you want, and if you continue to resist, inshallah, it should be very easy. I've seen a lot of the Muslim youth in the States who, mashallah, have memorized the Quran. We have a lot of huffaz, a lot of memorizers of the Quran. We have seen a lot of brothers, like 16, 17, 18, and mashallah, they are giving already khutab, speeches on Jum'ah. Yeah, leading Taraweeh Salah. Like really, I've seen kids 12, 13 years old leading Salah. Yes, and they are born and raised in the States. And some of them are like from even like an American background, like their parents have accepted Islam, and mashallah, they were raised that way. So, alhamdulillah, it's always, when we talk about being a Muslim youth, we have to really advise our brothers and sisters to stick with the right crowd. If you go with the wrong crowd, you'll start deviating. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us of this fact when He says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, in Surah Al-Kahf, واصبر نفسك مع الذين يدعون ربهم بالغداة والعشي يريدون وجهه ولا تعد عينك عنهم تريد زينة الحياة الدنيا. Meaning, and stick around, okay, patiently, with those who call upon their Lord. Meaning the good people, the good Muslims who always remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who always, trying to do the right thing. And Allah says here, and وَلَا تَعْدُ عَيْنَاكَ عَمْ تُرِيدُ زَيْنَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Do not let your eyes divert, or do not look away from, or do not leave this kind of crowd and those kind of people and seeking the pleasures of this life. Because otherwise, what will happen, that you'll deviate, right? And the Prophet ﷺ says in the authentic hadith that he said, Al-mar'u ala dini khalili, that a person will follow the way of his friend. A person will follow the way of his friend. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَا يُخَلِّدُ. So let every one of you be careful of whom he takes as a friend. So again, being a Muslim teenager, sticking with the right crowd, making sure you pick the good friends, at the same time, working on recharging the battery of Iman, faith, by visiting the masajid as much as you can, by praying at the school. Alhamdulillah, a lot of our youth, I've seen them praying dhuhr time at their school. They will go like during the break time, and they will be praying dhuhr by themselves at the classroom, or even on Jum'ah. Believe it or not, on Jum'ah, we have a lot of the high schools that have Muslims. They actually do Jum'ah at the school. They pray Jum'ah in congregation at the school. I've given many khutbahs, in high school, and it's amazing to see like such an environment which is so un-Islamic. High school is maybe one of the most un-Islamic environments that you can see in the West, but then you find people who are very proud to be Muslim. Alhamdulillah, they are practicing their deen. They're doing it with passion, and they're not scared of anyone, of whatever people say. And it's just beautiful, wallahi, to see these kind of examples. You know, I've seen some of the most, you know, amazing and wonderful people in my life, you know, from our Muslim youth. Like examples that remind you of Osama ibn Zayd or Asma bint Abi Bakr and Mus'ab ibn Umair and so on and so forth. There's so many beautiful examples. And I say, here's the thing. For us Muslims, you know, when we think of the topic of Muslim youth living in a non-Muslim country, we have to be very, very aware that, subhanAllah, it can always go the other way around. I've seen youth who have got involved in drugs, have got involved into gangs and violence, got involved into immorality. I mean, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be discussing a whole episode about some of the problems of the teenagers in the States. You'll be surprised about some of the facts, you know, for how you know, how violent things can get, how many youth get killed, how many youth teenagers, you know, basically have kids, like kids having kids. It's a very prominent, it's just very common in schools these days. I'm not speaking of high school, I'm speaking of like middle school. Kids having kids, it's happening. So I have to be really careful because subhanAllah, this is like the most critical stage of your life, being a Muslim youth, because you can choose one way or the other. You can choose to be the best of Muslim, or you can choose to be the worst of human being. So you better make a choice. And before you, you know, ruin, you know, your file with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, or that, you know, that basically that document, or as we call it, we have the sijil, you know, that has our records, good deeds and bad deeds, right? Before you ruin it, just remember one thing. Of you being a youth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised you something that is so priceless. It's only up to 7 kinds of people. 7 kinds of people will be under the shade of Allah on the Day of Judgment. On a day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that there will be no shade except His shade. Okay? Only 7 types of people. Amongst them is, who? Is a youth who is raised in obedience and worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, imagine on a day that things will get really, it will be miserable, put it that way. The sun will approach the heads of mankind. It will be like resurrection day, and people will be just standing and standing for such a long time, just waiting for, you know, for the Day of Judgment to happen. And some of them will be suffering, except those 7 kinds of people. They will be just standing. Actually, not even standing. You'll be actually enjoying the shade of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and will be in total peace and comfort and serenity and tranquility. They will be enjoying their time. Amongst them is a youth. I hope, inshallah, all 4 of you can be from, I mean, inshallah ta'ala, those raised in obedience and in worship. So, also, like, I'd like to mention to you guys that when you think of the land of opportunity, I know the title of the series is The Land of Opportunity. We're mentioning, you know, the American dream, or explaining the American society and so many other facts. But also, the U.S. for us, or the West in general, is a land of opportunity to get to what? To Jannah. To Jannah. So it's not just the land of opportunity to accomplish the American dream, or to make money, or to succeed, you know, or to have the best of position and degrees and fame and all that. But however, we have to understand our responsibilities as Muslims, and inshallah ta'ala, do our best to take advantage of both worlds, inshallah ta'ala. I see here, Akram, like you wanted to ask something?
Okay. Sheikh, you just mentioned that there is a lot of gangs and drug dealers out there. So how could we as Muslims people could convince them that those things are wrong, and could let them just try to leave that way and go to the right way?
Jazakallah khair. I mean, just to rephrase your question, Jazakallah khair, nice question. Akram here said there's a lot of, you know, problems with drugs, and a lot of problem with like gangs and violence and so on. Like any other society, it is prevalent, especially in the West, with due to the, you know, the social mixture itself, and availability of, you know, these things, drugs coming down, you know, from the border, and guns and money, and there's so many factors here involved. So Akram is really asking a very constructive question. Okay, so if these are happening, what's our duty as Muslims? You know, what can we do? Shall we just sit around? Shall we just do nothing about it? Or shall we, inshallah, do something to change this fact? First, we have to mention, as a Muslim, you are obliged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to what? Enjoin good and forbid evil. Meaning, regardless of your society, if the society is Muslim, you have to do that. If they are non-Muslim, you have to do that and help them too. And you have to really understand that as a Muslim, you should never be selfish. You should really do your very best to help people. And you should do your very best to rectify your society and to clean it with wisdom. Without, do not, I'm not promoting here that we as Muslims should go and start, confronting with people, but rather advise them, rather do something. This is why you find a lot of the Muslims in the States, subhanAllah, they have gone to these places and they have started working side by side with non-Muslims who have the same interest, have the same concern towards society. And I can share with you so many examples of neighborhoods like New York City, Brooklyn, or Atlanta, Georgia, or Connecticut, and which these neighborhoods, they had a lot of gangs and a lot of drug problems. But alhamdulillah, Muslims went there and mashallah, they started working very hard, talking to these people. Even a lot of these Muslim, Muslims, they went and they started giving da'wah to these gangsters, to those gangsters, and they accepted Islam. And they became Muslim. Wallahi, like one gang, I remember, one of our brothers, subhanAllah, was telling us that the gang leader became Muslim, and I think maybe over 40 of his gang members, all of them became Muslim as well. So it's mashallah, it's really beautiful to see all of these examples, which inshallah we'll be sharing with you. But definitely, I have to hear mention that you as a Muslim, you have to be wise. You have to approach people and explain to them the harms of drugs, what drugs could do to you. Mention to them that drugs can lead you always to a way that you never be wanted there, right? I mean, a lot of these drugs, they damage you from the inside, and subhanAllah, we find that people who have taken this path have had a lot of difficulties and challenges coming back to the right way. This is why I advise all my brothers and sisters, all of you, Muslims and non-Muslims, to really stay away from drugs, to stay away from anyone who invites you to do something that is not right. Even if it looks cool, even if it's the style and everyone is doing it and it's like, oh, it's cool to smoke weed and so on. No, it's cool to be healthy. It's cool to have upright head and to do the right thing and be focused at all times. It's much cooler, right? So I say here that alhamdulillah, our brothers and sisters in the US have mashallah taken a lot of steps and have succeeded into discussing and addressing these issues, and mashallah, they have practiced themselves. They have practiced and they have changed a lot drastically a lot of these like sad, alhamdulillah, facts. And mashallah, now we have seen the Muslim society has grown rapidly, even within these like inner cities, which are the places that are full of violence. We find that the majority of the Muslims, they live in these places like Philadelphia, places like like Northern Jersey, like East Orange, New Jersey, Brooklyn, Atlanta, as I said, in Georgia. And it's just amazing, really. It's subhanAllah, an experience that we should learn from. So, I'd like to also remind all of you and myself that being a Muslim in the States, it comes with responsibility. It does come with responsibility, which is the responsibility of da'wah. Da'wah means what? To invite people to Islam and to share the beautiful message of Islam. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll be mentioning and we'll be explaining how can I do this? What's the virtue? Is it something that I'm obliged to do? Or is it something that it's just recommended or optional? I can choose to do it or not to do it. How can I take advantage of the real American dream and the land of opportunities, inshallah, in building my house in Jannah and inshallah ta'ala in gaining the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll listen to this and stick around, and we'll be right back, inshallah ta'ala, with more exciting news and information for all of us and all of our viewers. Allahu Allah.
Mercy for Mankind is an outreach organization that is solely dedicated to sharing the beautiful message of Islam with those that may not have heard about it, or they might have gotten the wrong message.
It is a global message sending that mercy to the entire mankind, the mercy of Islam.
Welcome back, our brothers and sisters and your viewers from across the world. And inshallah ta'ala, as we discuss in this segment, how to really take advantage of the land of opportunity, the United States, not just from a materialistic point of view here, but we're speaking from an Islamic point of view. As a Muslim, what really can I do to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to increase my level of, my level in Jannah and my level of deeds also in the hereafter. I was mentioning the topic of Dawah, before the break, and we discussed that you as a Muslim should understand your responsibilities, right? So let's see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about some of these responsibilities, right? First, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Ali Imran, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Amazing verse. Here Allah says, and it's a verb of command. Okay, Allah is telling us, and let be amongst you a nation, meaning us, all of the Muslim nation, right? Doing what? Enjoining good, forbidding evil. Okay? And calling people to the khair. And here the interpreters of the Quran, they said what's meant by al-khair is al-Islam, because it is the best of khair. Khair in the Arabic means goodness. The most precious thing on this earth is what? Is our way, right? Our way that will get us close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is Islam, submission. You submit yourself to your Lord and you do His will, and inshallah if you do this, you'll attain the peace, because this is why we find like Islam is derived from what? The word salam, peace, and the word silm. If you submit yourself, silm, which means submission, you'll find peace. If you submit yourself to your Lord and you do whatever He asks you to do, inshallah you find peace in your heart, you find peace of mind, and inshallah ta'ala you'll attain the greatest peace, which is the peace in the hereafter. To Dar as-Salam, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called His Jannah, His paradise, what? The home of what? Of Salam. Subhanallah. May Allah reward us His home of Salam, or peace, which is Jannah. Ameen. So here Allah is saying that we must and we have to, as Muslims, share that beautiful message of Islam. We should not keep it to ourselves, right? So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us as well, and if you do so, وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, as He mentioned and concluded the verse by saying, and if you do so, and whoever does so, will be from the prosperous, will be from the successful ones. They will be successful in this life and also in the hereafter. So it's both, right? So I mean, there is nothing wrong, absolutely, by being successful, by accomplishing the American dream. Allah wants you to be strong. Why not? I mean, you can have a nice car, you can have a nice house, you can, mashallah, have a good family, you can be rich. There's nothing wrong. I mean, we have Sahaba like Uthman ibn Affan, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, and others, like Sa'd ibn Waqas and others. I mean, like Abdurrahman ibn Auf and Uthman, they were like the billionaires of their time. And then they utilized this money to support Islam and to support the khair, as you mentioned. So, according to this verse, we find that our scholars say that it is incumbent. It is something that is mandated, meaning a must do, which is to share that beautiful message of Islam, because Allah does not want you to be selfish. He wants you, if you have something precious, share it with others, and don't just keep it to yourself. So, and if you do so now it's an obligation, but then we have to understand that every obligation in Islam also has a virtue, or has a reward. What's the reward of sharing that obligation, or doing that obligation? It is what the Prophet ﷺ says, as he said in the hadith that was actually related by Bukhari. We find Anas ibn Malik telling us that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, for Allah to guide through you one man, shall be better for you than whatever has seen the sun. Other narration says, will be better for you than the whole world and what it contains. Will be better for you than the red camels, meaning that it was like the most prized wealth of Arabia at that time. It was like the ultimate dream of an Arab to own a bunch of the red camels. So anyway, the scholars say here that this will apply to the most desired wealth and the most desired thing that any human being would dream and wish to have and own. So subhanAllah, we find that the obligation of da'wah, it's amazing, because I personally, when I do practice it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides people through me or through my efforts, wallahi, I feel sweetness in my heart, like sweetness of iman and faith in my heart. That's such a beautiful feeling that just it's just priceless. I feel so good every time Allah would help through me someone not supposed to, but then I helped them to change their way of life and to come back and to really find the purpose in life. This is an obligation that we Muslims we should do. But inshallah ta'ala, I'll be like focusing, we'll have inshallah an entire episode about da'wah. How can I practically invite mankind or people to Islam in practical steps, inshallah. There's like, as I said, it's an obligation, but also it comes with tools. I have to learn. You guys, all of you go to school, right? So in order for you to get a degree in something, you have to study, right? And in order for you to be an engineer, you have to go in engineering school. To be a doctor, you have to go to medical school, and so on and so forth, right? So this is normal here. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll be focusing in steps. Again, this is an introductory episode about what the whole series will be about. You'll be, inshallah, I promise you that you'll be benefiting so much. I promise you that by listening to these things, and I really would recommend you to even take notes, because a lot of our brothers and sisters who listen to this kind of information, they were able to really, really benefit. And when they practiced these instructions and they implemented these steps, they were very successful. So inshallah, I would like you to really pay attention to these episodes. Again, we're just telling you what this exciting series will be all about. You better have a notebook with you and a pen and be ready to take notes, because some of these information, inshallah, will be very, very beneficial, I promise you. Okay, so we'll get back to our guests, and I recall, Shadian, I think you were saying something earlier.
Yeah, I want to ask you about how many Muslims are in US.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, it's an interesting question to say that, okay, what's the Muslim population? Because when you hear of the United States, you almost think that there's no presence to the Muslims. Like, a lot of people wonder, do you guys even pray? Do you even have masajid? Is there any Muslims there? Because it just, US, we don't think of Muslims. When we think of America, we think of Hollywood, we think of the movies, we think of CNN and the media and all these skyscrapers we see. It's just, we never think of masajid or minarets and domes. You will be amazed to find out that there's about 8 million Muslims living in the States. 8 millions. And stats say that there's between 6 to 8 millions. So there's about 2.3 million households, Muslim households. And the Muslim presence has been really increasing drastically, especially after the 50s, and with waves and waves of immigrants coming to the States. You'd be surprised to hear of that there are a lot of the families. And subhanAllah, I've been to these places through my frequent travel in the country. I go to places that are, the streets, they have Arabic or Muslim names. Be like, what is this? Then I would ask the people of the city, how come the street has Arabic name? Or even the university would have some halls, like a hall at the university. The hall is named with a Muslim name, meaning after a Muslim person who actually built it or donated it to the university or whatever. And then they would tell me, yeah, actually this used to be a Muslim family. They migrated 100 years ago or more. Really? I'd be like, okay, and what happened to their children? They tell me, well, they're not Muslims anymore. They actually became Catholic because they were living in a Catholic environment. Again, they did not maintain that identity. So Muslims who migrated to the States over 100 years back at the time, especially the Islamic presence started rising, and the Islamic movement, and that revival, you know, in the Islamic movement started really happening in the 70s. But Muslims who came before that, who came, especially those who came before the 50s, there was nothing. You're on your own, no masajid whatsoever. Like, you know, like maybe some of the masajid, the oldest masajid I've seen were only built in the 70s. Yeah, there were masajid before that, yes. But then subhanAllah, you go now and visit them. Like places like Iowa and Michigan, and you find places like, tell yeah, this used to be a masjid. And now it's like a library or something. Yeah, when Muslims came long time ago, like over 100 years, they built a masjid. But then because the next generation did not maintain their Islamic identity and they were not really taught by the fathers, or maybe there was too much pressure on them, social pressure on them, subhanAllah, what happened? That they lost their identity, and these masajid were turned into like, you know, stores and gas stations and things like that, which is very unfortunate. So I say here that it is very important for the Muslim to really maintain their identity. So going back to your question, the Muslim presence, alhamdulillah, it's almost everywhere. Like, I mean, especially the major cities. Like Muslims, they are pretty much focused, because you have to understand, the state it's a continent. We're talking about like 50 states and 5 territories. There's like 55 countries here combined together, you know, and some of these states are humongous. They're like gigantic, and as I said, like each state is like a country. But the major cities, they have plenty of Muslims, alhamdulillah, and you always find like big Islamic centers that are very active, and you know, if you go there, you'd be surprised, because you can really practice your deen better. And this, I've heard this testimony from so many Muslims. I cannot tell you how many Muslims have come personally to me and shared with me their experience, and they said, I came to this country, you know, trying to chase the American dream. I came to this country trying to, you know, make money and just have a big house and a luxurious car and marry a beautiful wife. And I was able to accomplish all of this. But still, it did not give me happiness, you know. They said, you'd be surprised, Sheikh, to know that I was able to practice Islam here in America. I was able to practice Islam here in the US more than my own Muslim country, which is shocking to some of us. But Allah is very true. It's absolutely true. Because over there, it's like you have to choose one way or the other. Like there's no middle way. Like, you know, living in a Muslim country, you're still Muslim, but then you can be, you know, Muslim and who's not very, you know, practicing or not very committed to your faith. It's still, the society is Muslim. You'll find people like yourself. But then over there, it's like you choose, you know, the path of righteousness or the path of wickedness. It's like, you know, the bar or the masjid, and you pick the club or the masjid. And alhamdulillah, you go to the masjid, you find a lot of people doing the same thing that you're doing, and they'll be encouraging you. Wallahi, it's just amazing to see some of our Muslim communities, like, and the programs they have. You can go to the masjid just to visit, and so a lot of people, they go there with they really want to satisfy that social vacuum that they have, because, you know, they do not know any American people, or maybe they don't feel comfortable making friends from you know, other cultures, so they want to come and see people from their culture. So they come to the masajid, but then when they see Muslims praying, Muslims seeking knowledge, Muslim, alhamdulillah, doing a lot of these like religious activities, and they do it, they feel so good. And this is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, Surah Al-Nahl, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. SubhanAllah, the verse is just unbelievable. Like every time I ponder over this verse, I find such a satisfying urge in my heart, and because like you see it every day. You know, whoever works righteousness, meaning whoever does good, whether he's a male or female, while he's a believer, meaning you're doing it only for Allah's sake. Allah is promising what? We will make him surely live a cheerful, joyful life, full of joy and happiness. And so they go there and they start practicing these things, and it's like amazing. Wow, this really feels good, you know. And you know, I cannot imagine personally when I think of salah. I cannot imagine life without prayers. And wallah, it hurts me. It makes my heart bleed almost to see a lot of people in this life just suffering psychologically, suffering from a lot of mental problems due to so many factors. Because if you think about it, if you're working every day, you become like a machine, and you're working, you're eating, you're driving, you're doing this, you're doing that, and after a while it gets boring. Like we are spiritual beings, human beings, mankind. They are very spiritual beings. You need that spiritual connection with your Lord, because it's grounded in your heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created you for a purpose, and He made you a certain way. It's like the fitrah that we hear about, which is the natural disposition. If you practice your fitrah, this is the catalog that Allah gave you, the Quran, by worshipping Him. If you implement this fitrah, you'd be so amazed by the experience. Like, wallahi, you'd be like waking up every day in the morning, and you'd be like, I feel good today. Like, you're always in a good mood, you're always like smiling, you're alhamdulillah, you just want to start your day, and because you feel like you are here for a purpose, and you start your day by worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praying Fajr, and then you after that, during the break, maybe during your work or school, you're praying praying Dhuhr, and then after that you're praying Asr at the end of your day after school or after work, and then after Maghrib, and then you pray Maghrib time at the end of your day, and mashallah, you conclude your day by praying Isha, and then you go to sleep. Unbelievable, wallahi. I cannot imagine life without prayers. That's why we have to really thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making us Muslim, and we have to really strive and do our best, inshallah, to share that enormous blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with our brothers and sisters in humanity. So inshallah, I will tell you about some of the other aspects of society, inshallah, that a lot of you have been wondering about for a long time. It will be almost like taking us to the mood of Hollywood, and the mood of just these like flashing lights, and almost like that dreamland. Inshallah, in the next segment we'll be discussing a lot of these aspects. I'm mentioning some of the experiences of actors and actresses and celebrities and famous people that will, inshallah, will make you really be inspired, inshallah ta'ala. So stick around, and inshallah we'll be back for more.
Allahu, 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 Allah, Allah.
We out there and we educating society about who we are as Muslims. So if somebody comes and they come with that hate, and they leave and they're like, I'm not Muslim, but I understand them. Alhamdulillah.
Mercy for Mankind clears up the misconceptions and provides one-on-one people that you can talk to in person and explain and answer questions.
Allahu, 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 Allah, Allah.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. And as we heard before we left, that we'll be discussing Hollywood in this part of the program, inshallah. In this last segment, we'll be mentioning some of the Muslim celebrities. Can I be famous and Muslim? Or some of my favorite stars that I see on TV, in these like multi-million-dollar movies. Are they even Muslim? How does it be like? I mean, are they, is it possible to have, the good of both worlds? Is it even, realistic? Yes, of course. SubhanAllah, we'll be mentioning some of these examples. Like, I'll mention to you some names. We'll find that there are famous stars like Mos Def, like David Chappelle. We have even Mike Tyson. Now he's even doing movies. And this guy is SubhanAllah, it's, if you remember, he became Muslim first in the early 90s. And I recall that at that time, people were shocked. And even before him, we had Muhammad Ali, big star of all times of boxing, becoming Muslim. And Muhammad Ali, if you, I'm sure you were not born, I wasn't born either, but people tell us who were living in the States at that time that it's like almost, when they say, when we hear the seerah or the life story of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and say that, until Umar ibn al-Khattab became Muslim, we felt like almost like humiliated, or we didn't have really any strength. SubhanAllah, until Muhammad Ali became Muslim, Muslims at that time, we're talking about like over 40 years back, Islam was so weak in the States, and Muslims were not, they were not out there. A lot of them were, scared. A lot of them maybe were even ashamed of their way of life, and just the Muslim community was not the same. That's why you find that when Muhammad Ali became Muslim, subhanallah, there was such a hype on the media at that time, and a lot of Muslims started just going out there. And even I know people personally in my family or my wife's family that were named after Muhammad Ali, actually. Like, people named their children Muhammad Ali because they were so proud of him becoming a Muslim. So Hollywood has really, when I look at the industry, and I personally got involved in the industry, and we, alhamdulillah, with our organization, which is that organization, also we produce movies as well, and we deal with some of these stars, and I know them personally, and I've talked to them. I've talked to several, and they always tell me that yes, what you see on TV is not what's really happening. When I go on TV or when I go on the big screen, when you go to the movie theater, he said, this is totally not me, because you see this champ, this guy who's strong, who can fight, who's happy, who's taking over the world. But in real life, this guy, wallahi, I know personally, one of big stars in Hollywood. He starred a $100 million movie. And he told me, I've had dinner with him last time, and he was like talking to me about his experience. And he was like telling me that he doesn't feel good. Like, he feels that he does not have a purpose in life. And sometimes he feels that it's overwhelming, because he attained success, and he's got the money, he's got the looks and all of these, but then, is he happy from the inner side? Is he happy, like his soul is happy? No, he's not. And subhanAllah, when he was saying this, I remembered what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling us in Surah Taha, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, ومن أعرض عن ذكري فإن له معيشة ضنكا ونحشره يوم القيامة أعمى قال ربي لما حشرتني أعمى قد كنت بصيرا قال كذلك أتتك آياتنا فنسيتها وكذلك اليوم تنسى. Meaning that whoever neglects me, whoever neglects my remembrance, neglect the Quran, neglect Islam, neglect his purpose in life, he's just living his own God, as they say there. He's not really finding his purpose. He's not really doing what should be done. He's just doing whatever he pleases, right? Allah said that He would make him live a miserable life, no matter how much money he has. SubhanAllah, I know a lot of people in the industry, and I've seen that a lot of them are depressed. A lot of them have psychological problems. Some of them even have addiction problems to drugs. And you've seen a lot of these movie stars, they die from drug addiction. And being there, and especially the headquarters of our Dawah organization is in LA. It's like in Hollywood, right there. So we work in this environment. Inshallah, you'll be seeing a lot of the clips, inshallah, from Hollywood itself, and we'll be making interviews with people from there, and you'll be seeing how Hollywood really looks in real life, not the life of the movies. So what I'm saying here is, being a Muslim does not really forbid you from having fun. You can be successful, but then you have to know your purpose. You definitely have to know your purpose in life. If you practice, wallahi al-azim, and this is a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we mentioned earlier, if you work righteousness, you will have a happy life. At the same time, if you turn away, if you neglect Allah, He'll make you live miserable. And as He said here, and He'll resurrect you, meaning in the next life, blind. They wonder, oh Allah, I used to see. Why did you make me blind? So He will tell them what? كَذَلِكَ أَتَتْكَ آيَاتُنَا that you have received my signs, and so many signs. So many signs. It's not just referring to the verses of the Quran, but referring to the signs. Look at around you. SubhanAllah, look in your own body. Look around the sun, the moon, the skies, the air that you breathe, the animals, the plants, the birds. There's so many signs that you as a human being, Allah gave you. وَجَعَلَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ. Allah has granted you the sam'a, hearing, eyesight, al-absar, al-afida, hearts and minds to reflect. But then Allah here, but then you appreciate a little, meaning that you are ungrateful. Most human beings are, and it's subhanAllah, it's such an excellent experience when you are there in that environment. That people from all over the world dreaming, and through my frequent travels, like when I go to Europe and when I go to like Asia or Africa or different parts of the world, they're always like, wow, you live in the U.S. and I see like the American, everything is American, like the whole world is really turning American. Fast food is everywhere, like subhanAllah, everywhere I go, it's like I'm eating McDonald's in every country. They have all of these like fast food chains just opening everywhere. They have the movie theaters. Even these countries, they don't even produce their own movies or in their own language, but then they have all their movie theaters full, and you see advertisement everywhere for American movies. It's unbelievable. And the whole world is looking up to the U.S. I can tell you, it is definitely one of the best places to live on earth, for sure. But then you have to understand too that it's not the best if you neglect Islam and you turn, as we see a lot of our youth been trying to get Americanized. American people are running away from this, to Islam. And subhanAllah, I've met with a lot of students from the US who study at Muslim countries, and they always tell me, man, like, we were shocked when we first came here. I mean, we thought it's a Muslim country and, people are doing certain things, but here people are like, they playing, like kids or youth playing like rap music everywhere, and the youth are just trying to, wear the saggy pants and just trying to wear American and look a certain way, and it was shocking for them because they are running from this, and our Muslim youth are unfortunately running towards this. And sometimes it gets really puzzling, like why we're doing this. But again, it's that's why we're having this kind of program, alhamdulillah. It's a reality check. This program, inshallah, is to really think outside of the box and to see the facts and to do a reality check and see if this is what you really want to be, if this is really what you want to do. And it's up to you. You be the judge at the end. I'm not going to preach you one way or the other or try to persuade you one way or the other, but then you can choose for yourself. I'm here just to share with you the reality of things. Okay, so I recall like some of you guys were wondering about certain issues, so I guess maybe we'll go with Akram.
Yeah, okay. Sheikh, you just mentioned also that there's a lot of famous people just use the Islamic religion. So there's a lot of people that trying to give a bad image for the Islamic religion. So how could we try to stop them or to give a wrong idea for the...
Okay, sure. Okay, so Akram here is saying that there are people who are embracing Islam, but also there are others who are, trying to smear the religion, basically. They're trying to give it a bad name and try to distort the original message of Islam and portray it in an evil or bad way to the public. So here's the thing, my brothers and sisters, dealing with people with negativity about Islam, dealing with people with preconceived notions that are not good, and what I mean here about preconceived notions is when sometimes people, they already build in their minds, an idea about Islam and Muslims. And based on this idea that they build in their own minds, they deal with you. So they already decide that you're bad. And when they deal with you, okay, they will deal with you because they know they will talk to you and deal with you in a certain way because they know that you are bad, right? Or they would know that you are this or that. So they already build in their minds, something, and based on that something, they will deal with you, whether it's good or bad, okay? So we have to understand that latest statistics mention that over 70% of the American public, they have negative image of Islam, like 70% or more. I think I remember it was 72 or 73% when they were asked, how do you view Islam? So they said, it's something not good. So, and at the same time, we have to understand that we Muslims have really neglected our duty. We have abandoned giving dawah, and not necessarily giving dawah, but at least having the right channels to really, when we stopped informing people about the reality of Islam, others came and they filled that vacuum and they told people what Islam, if nobody's saying anything about Islam, then those guys can always come and say whatever they want. I've heard things from very, very influential, personalities in the States saying, "Oh, do you know that Muslims are pagans? Like they worship idols? Look at them. They worship that black box in the desert, the Kaaba. Do you know that Muslims worship the moon god? They worship the moon." And they say that, what's their proof? Look at any Muslim organization. Even look at the masajid. You find what's the symbol they use is what? The crescent. SubhanAllah. But we use it for a different purpose, right? This is just to signify the lunar calendar, and basically it was something that Muslims start using recently. By the way, it was never used in the past with the same level of because it can really confuse people. Even here, if you look at the minaret, you find that the minaret here, the decoration has that crescent. So you have people like this, and they're very influential, and there are millions and millions of people watching their programs. You have some of them, and it was interesting. One of the most influential news anchors in the States worked for a major channel. He was saying one time, and subhanAllah, see how he is presenting things. Very smart, or slick, put it that way. He said, it is true to mention that not every Muslim is a terrorist. Again, it is true to say or to mention that not every Muslim is a terrorist. But it is true to say that every terrorist is a Muslim. But again, they're saying, but it is true to say that every terrorist is a Muslim. See how they present things. So, you have billions of dollars being spent to tarnish Islam. So our duty as Muslims is to be patient. First, when we deal with people, you have to understand, put yourself again in their position, put yourself in their shoes, as they say, and try to listen to them, and understand that they do not know any better. And a lot of them, Allah, a lot of the Americans are very, very sincere people. When they ask, they do not mean any harm. They're very sincere. And when they talk to you and they ask you these kind of questions, they just want to know. Their questions may come as offensive, but smile, try to be open-minded, have an open heart, and explain things to them in a calm way and with, inshallah, good manners, and then they would listen, inshallah ta'ala. So your duty as a Muslim is to be patient, have wisdom. At the same time, it is the duty of the Muslim community at large to have the right channels, inshallah, to be able to portray Islam to the American public in the best of manners. So I say here, advising my brothers and sisters and our audience here, that it is our duty as Muslims to convey Islam and to do our very best to share this beautiful message, a priceless message, the most precious thing that Allah has blessed you with in this life. If you were to know how much this is missing in so many societies that have accomplished everything that you can think of, but then they're missing what you have: peace of mind, peace of heart, and that serenity. SubhanAllah, that just peace. They're peaceful, living peacefully, and living happy. So do not be deluded and do not be deceived by these examples. Rather, try to learn that you as Muslims have the most valuable and the most precious treasure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with, which is Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us live always upon Islam and make us able to practice it, implement it in our lives, and inshallah ta'ala grant us the happiness of this life and the hereafter. Ameen. Inshallah, until next time, Assalamu alaikum.
Allahu, Allahu, Allah.